we are here with Scott Carson. Scott is a Texas native from Ingleside who went from working in his family's hardware store to becoming a nationally recognized note investing expert and host of the Note Closer Show. Since 2008, he has flipped over $1 billion in distressed debt and coached investors nationwide, earning honors like Note Educator of the Year. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Scott.
Eric, I am honored to be here today, bud, and we're going to have some fun, I think, for the next 30 to 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, gauging off of the brief encounter I had with you, I'm sure we are. And to hear that you've been titled Note Educator of the Year, that definitely tells me something, that you absolutely know everything that you're talking about. And so I'm really intrigued to learn a little bit more about that in particular. And the reason being is because right now it's a really unique environment within the real estate arena. So with us being on the commercial side, predominantly looking at multifamily commercial properties, it's been really tough for us to make the numbers work on a lot of these deals that's been coming down the pike. And so just keeping our eyes open is what a lot of my colleagues are doing now. Some individuals are looking into laundromats, businesses, different ways to generate income and keep capital working for their investors. And so note investing, that's really unique. I've had a couple other guests on the show, but I'm always willing to learn a little bit more about this niche. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about note investing. But before we get into more details about that, if you could share just a little bit more about yourself and also how you got started in note investing.
Yeah, so I've been a real estate investor for over 20 years. Bought my first rental property back in 2001 for buying my first home. Was excited about that, and fell flat in my face as I got laid off from my job, and then my two tenants got laid off from their job. So I went from being a happy real estate investor to be in a distressed borrower, deadbeat borrower, to not be able to pay 6 mortgage payments, 3 seconds and 3 firsts. You know what I mean? So not the way you want to dive into real estate investing is fall flat in your face. Fast forward a few years, I got my assets out of a sling and started a mortgage company with a buddy of mine. And then we were traveling the country doing mortgages for real estate investors. And our sponsoring broker was a guy by the name of Bob Leonetti and a lady named Jamie Kayla. And they taught me all about creative financing and the note business, how to structure deals, how to create notes. And that's really where a lot of people think about the note business. They think about the owner financing side or buying on terms. And that's one side of the note business. I took it a little bit further because they also taught me about buying non-performing notes. And if you think back to 2004, 2008, I learned a lot in that 4-year period, especially as we got to the end of 2008, as everything was hitting the fan, crashes, stuff like that. So I started calling banks and calling lenders to start seeing what kind of distressed debt they had in their books. And a distressed mortgage is basically, it's a note where somebody hasn't paid in usually 6 months or longer. So I started getting these lists sent to me, and was able to start cherry picking these lists of either residential properties or multifamily properties from like Capital One. They sent me this huge list that I could cherry pick from. And then I was like, this is what I want to do. So left the origination side. And ever since then, I've been a full-time note buyer, just buying distressed debt, trying to work it out with the borrowers or the homeowners, because we do buy a mixture of residential and commercial. And I love where I'm at. I especially love, like you said, what's going on in the market right now. We're seeing, and I've been saying this for over 12 months because we usually see deals 6 to 12 months before most regular investors see stuff by buying the debt. And we're seeing a lot of opportunities come across the plate that we haven't seen in the last 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a really turbulent market right now. And you could see it all over. You've got news of different people losing properties and going belly up, even some banks going belly up. And then the Fed, they're not backing off of the interest rates any. And so it's just not making things much better. And so it's definitely a unique time as of 2025. And so if I could back things up and cover some of the things that you just shared. And so you were pretty much forced into full-time business as an entrepreneur. You got laid off and you had to pretty much sink or swim. And then you got into a mortgage business and took towards note investing. And so when you first got started there, what was the first go? Of course, I'm sure it was education. just share what it was like initially getting started.
Yeah, I was trying to educate myself. Now I was in a fortunate position and I was kind of getting paid to learn. I was traveling to these different conferences, sit in the back of the room, and then I could take home all these manuals and classes and learn real estate investing the right way versus just trying to figure it all out myself. And don't get me wrong, it was kind of tough at first. There was times I was doing 2 jobs with the mortgage business and I was waiting tables at night or doing other things to get through to be a real estate investor. But then I also learned a very valuable lesson that you don't need your own money to go buy deals. And I think that's one of the big things for the working class out there, the folks that have their JOB at a career that they enjoy. They often think, well, I got to have money saved, or I got to have a rich uncle, or I got to go get a bank loan for a property. That's not the case. 95% of the deals that we have bought over the last 15 years have been using other people's money, whether it was somebody's IRA or retirement account or somebody having money on the sidelines. And when that clicked in my head that there was this huge, river of private money on the sidelines waiting to be put to work, I was like, okay, now this gives me the go ahead and the confidence that I need to do, that I can make a whole lot more offers, make a whole lot more happen, and break out of that constraints of, comfort level zones of only having to use my own money. Well, yeah, that's a great thing to be able to use your own money, but it also limits you from making other deals happen. If that makes sense, Eric.
Yeah. So you're always going to have a ceiling when it comes to using your own money, because everyone has a limit, no matter who you are. Even Elon Musk, he raises capital from other people as well, to keep his capital working and to be able to do more. And so you always want to have that skill and ability to be able to use other people's money, because it's just a safer way to go about investing and building your wealth. If I could, I'd like to just kind of pull you back briefly. And so you said that in the beginning, when you were learning the note business, you were working in mortgage, you were learning on the fly, you were learning on the job, getting paid, but you also mentioned that you had other odds and end jobs to be able to make ends meet. So how were you structuring your days as you were learning, as you were really busy? Did you have a family during that period of time? I like to just always go really deep, because a lot of our listeners, they're in the beginning, they have W-2, or either they have a business and they're trying to get the business off the ground. And as you well know, that's the most difficult time to be able to get the business off the ground. It's in the beginning. It's extremely difficult to get things off the ground. So if we could get into the weeds briefly, how were you structuring your day? Were you just every waking moment you would dedicate towards learning about your craft, learning about your business, and just didn't have much time for anything else?
So I didn't have any kids, but I was married, and my wife was very supportive, and she wanted to do it as well because she worked with autistic children. Okay, board certified behavior analyst. So she didn't make a lot of money, but she still did make some money to help offset some of the costs and stuff like that. But she was very interested. So I would work, 8 to 5, 8 to 6 every day, and then 3 days a week I would go home and I'd wait tables at nights. You know what I mean? And then she would also, back in that time, we were actually sending out a lot of yellow letters, foreclosure campaigns, pulling lists from the foreclosure auctions, and targeting those. So yes, we spent basically about every waking hour working on something. And one weekend a month, I was traveling to a conference for our mortgage company. So that would take 1 weekend a month. But I also learned while I was traveling, because I'm sitting in the back of the room of an event with 1,500 real estate investors. And then I also was very big on books and tapes and CDs and turning my car into an education class as well. So just learning whatever I could. I mean, one of the best books I think I learned right off the bat was, I really do still think it's a great book, is Ron LeGrand had a book about how to wholesale and options. Real estate options and wholesaling was a great book I read from his event. And then, talking with people about private money, and then going and networking the local real estate club one Thursday night a month to network with the local investors and start rubbing shoulders with that. So I was a sponge. I did everything that my mentor, Bob, told me to do. He goes, go do this, go do that. You go talk to this person. And that's what I did. Everybody I came in contact with, I got a business card, because Bob told me everybody's a buyer or a seller or a funding source. So I started building a database. So then when I did have something, I had a list to market to. And so I didn't have to work late night jobs very long. It was about 4 to 6 months, I think. But I remember walking in. It was one night, actually, it was at Chili's. It was wait tables at Chili's, okay? And I remember the manager came to me. He's like, Scott, we really love you. If you could work more than 3 nights a week, we'd make you a barman, a bartender. I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. Maybe I could do it. And I went home. And I was like, wait a second. Now I'm giving up my dreams and what I've been working so hard for to go wait tables, to make $2.13 an hour plus tip. Oh, bartender, you got $5 an hour plus tips. It's like, no. Wow. So I remember I went back in and told the manager, I said, listen, I'm quitting. And he got so pissed and upset with me. And I remember I'm like, well, listen, man, waiting tables at Chili's and being a bar manager is not my dream. All right. I was 28 years old at the time. I was like, I'm not interested in doing this. I did it as a part-time. I have things going on, and it's kind of, either I'm going to follow that or I'm going to sit here and keep on the rat race. I don't want to be in the rat race anymore. So I'm going to go full in on that. What I'm doing here, thank you for the opportunity, but here's my apron and my pen, and I'll see y'all later.
Wow. Yeah. So you betted on yourself and it turned out very well for you. And a lot of times that's what you have to do. You have to have confidence in yourself. You just really never know what you can do unless you take a step of faith and move forward and have some confidence in yourself. A lot of times within business or amongst mentorships and programs, that's a huge piece that they pass out is the mental side and having that personal development to where you're concentrating on eliminating those limiting beliefs, because sometimes that's really the only thing that's holding you back is your thinking. And as long as you can get your thoughts in the right direction, there's really no cap on you. So that's great that you move forward. And so what led to your big break? And so we see where you are now. What led to you being able to get traction? Was there anything that you did that caused you to be able to start getting traction that you can put your finger on?
Yeah. So it was, you fast forward like 2009 after the meltdown, right? I'd left the mortgage business and was starting to be just a full-time note investor. And I'd also gone through a divorce. 2009, I got divorced. That was a kick in the teeth, right? I'm like, I got divorced. Great. Awesome. But I was sitting here and I was like, I need to start marketing. I started getting these lists. I would literally just pick up the phone, kind of like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness, and just start making phone calls, 50 to 100 phone calls to asset managers. And I just started playing a game. Like I knew that if I made 50 phone calls, I'd probably talk to 14 people. And out of those 14 people, I'd probably get somewhere between 1 to 3 leads on either a list of notes or a single note. And I did. And that's the work. And I remember sitting there one day making 50 phone calls. I got to 50. I wanted to give up. I said, let me make another 2. I got another 45 minutes before I'm going to leave for the day. Why not? So I made 2 more phone calls, 2 more no's. On the 53rd phone call, a lady answered the phone. She was like, oh, yeah, I got a tape for sale. And I'm like, okay, so basically 1 out of 50 phone calls is going to be profitable. So I just started gamifying my phone numbers and phone calls to work that magic. And that list led to a $50,000 payday in 30 days. Wow. It was a $5 million portfolio that we wholesaled. It took a couple people to make things happen. We made 5 points on it. That's $250,000. My cut was 1/5. And that's when I realized, like, I don't care. I was scared of the phone like many people. I was like, no. This is something I can reproduce and I could work my marketing. So I'll just keep marketing it. And then I just started sharing my success of what I was getting in as far as, pictures of the properties or details. I just started marketing what I was doing on Facebook and LinkedIn back in the day, and then texting or doing an email blast out to people. Hey, here's the deal I got on an apartment complex in San Diego, or here's another deal in Dallas, Texas, or here's a deal in Indianapolis, and just started sharing what I was working on. And that led to people like, okay, I want to tell me more about what you're doing and how does this note thing work differently than buying the property, and started teaching people about note investing. So that's what I think back to is that belief. Like I just got to share what I'm doing. And it's kind of like that whole, if you share it, they will come kind of thing. So you build it, they will come.
Wow. Okay. So just documenting your journey was what led to your success. And then also taking action, because if you hadn't picked that phone up and attacked what you really didn't want to move forward with, then you would have missed out on that. And it seems like you started getting some really solid traction once you did pick up the phone and somewhat discover a KPI on how many leads it would take to be able to get one converted.